Tori, are you preaching on the podcast today?
I don't know. I just blew my own mind. Really, you got me there. But no, I think I've never thought of it that way. I've never thought of it that way before. You've mentioned a couple times this concept of math anxiety. Can you define it for us and then tell us why you think it's such a huge issue?
Yes. So math anxiety, there are a few different definitions, but when you drill it down, it's negative emotions around doing and solving math problems. And that can be in a variety of contexts. My favorite scenario to illustrate math anxiety is back in the day before the restaurants really got privy at how to offer separate checks. So the bill comes out, it's a group of 8, it's a group of 10. What does everybody do back in the day when the bill comes out? What? Throw the hands up. Not me. I'm not the one. Don't look at me. Don't look at me to split this bill up, because it's math involved in doing that. So math anxiety can take on a variety of different forms. It can be physical. So similar to how people feel if they have a fear of public speaking, sweaty hands, palpitating heart, nerves just kind of all over the place. It can also have emotional. It can look certain ways emotionally, like fear, tears. I've had to feel tears in several tutoring sessions. Avoidance, right? If we are anxious about something, we tend to not even want to deal with it. And then from a scientific perspective, the brain, the part that helps with that short-term memory, sometimes it just goes out to lunch when that test is put in front of you, because it's like, okay, I know I just studied all this, but I'm having this anxious moment. It's kind of like stage fright where I just have forgotten everything. So those are just a few examples of math anxiety. And ed.gov actually has this really glaring stat that I always love to share, not because I love it, but because it really illustrates what we're dealing with. And that is approximately 93% of American adults experience math anxiety on some level. 93%.
I mean, I'm
and then
3%, I think. Whenever
I'm
trying to calculate my tip, I'm like I can't. It takes me much longer than it should. Like, I have to sit there and I have to take 10% and then double it. And then I'm
but that's a good strategy. But that's a good strategy, actually, Tori.
Because because I can do 10% easy and then I double it. And then I'm like, okay, we're starting there. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a good strategy that math teachers teach children when they're learning percentages and that kind of thing. And actually, I used to teach GED math to adults. And I remember one day in class, we were going through a particular lesson, and one of the students raised her hand and she said, I know that I used to work in retail. And she said, I know that 10%, is where I could start to get to the answer. And I'm like, yes. Great way to do that.
10% was her commission? Is that what it was?
I don't know. I don't know if it was because it was her commission or is it because of, sales and markdowns and that kind of thing.
Maybe. Oh, yeah.
Maybe both. Yeah.
No, that would make more sense.
Yeah. So
you get better percentages, of course, the more you're around them. Yeah.
Exactly. And they show up everywhere. So that's what we try to do, is make these connections. So 93% of American adults experience math anxiety. And to drill that down even further, math anxiety has been shown to have a much harsher impact on females and people of color than it does the rest of the population. And that's for a variety of reasons, some of which we've touched on already. Societal bias, stereotype threat. Oh, you're a girl, you must not be good at math. Well, some people actually internalize that stereotype, and then that's exactly what happens. So looking at those two things combined, this high percentage of adults who just are fearful and anxious around math, and then understanding that there are some additional factors that cause math anxiety to be a lot more detrimental in doubly marginalized populations. I was looking at that and I was like, I feel like I need to create something that's going to address both of those things simultaneously and catch people before they become adults. So children, let me catch them before they become grown-ups who are fearful of math, and let's rewrite this narrative.
Yeah. So this concept of math anxiety, do you feel like in the people you tutor, of course this will show up, but like what sort of stories or language do the students you tutor use when they are expressing math anxiety?
It's shown up in so many different ways, and I often like to say that it shows up in boys and girls. So I don't want to paint this picture that only girls are math anxious or only girls feel like they aren't good at math, because that's not the case. But we just know that it's a confidence gap between typically, generally speaking, between a boy and a girl. We know the messages. We've already talked about that. So what I have seen, I'll give two clear examples that I think really underscore how it shows up. So one of my students, I think she's in the 8th grade now, but at the time she was in the 5th or 6th grade. And I was at her house and we were working on a concept, and she had a grasp of the concept. She was working independently. She didn't need my intervention at that point. So I'm just sitting there observing her. I'm not saying much. I'm watching her work through the problems, and I'm excited with what I see. And then out of her mouth, she says, "Miss Brittany, I'm just not good at this." And I was legit confused. I was like, what do you mean? You're literally doing it. You're literally doing the problems. You're doing them correctly. You look okay. You're not looking flustered. I was like, so she was like, "I'm just not good at this." And I was like, I stopped for a minute and I said, "What does it mean to be good at math? In your definition, what does it mean for someone to be good at math?" And she said, they're fast. That they do math problems quickly. And I remember in that moment, I just said, okay. And she looked over at me and she was like, "Are you going to tell my mom?" Like she thought she was in trouble. She did. She thought she was in trouble. And so after that, it was my mission, of course, not only to help her with her immediate math assignments, but also we had to do some mindset shifting because again, and I get it, in school, you got the math time tests and who can do the multiplication problems the fastest. It's there. So again, messages that are always being delivered to our children, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, you sit there, you got 60 seconds and you're doing what, 40 multiplication problems or something like that?
And
those, and I used to feel so good when I got those.
So accomplished. And it works for some kids. It works for some, but it doesn't work for every kid. And it can be very detrimental.
Right. And this is bringing up my own thing where I think my parents literally told me, if you are the first person to turn in your test, you are doing something wrong. Like they were telling me, like, you need to double check your work and then triple check your work. And like, before you turn a test in, like, you probably don't want to be the first person to turn the test in. And so, that's really
that was good advice, parents.
It is, but at the same time, you're exactly right. We were being, conditioned or told, okay, well, you're going to do 40 math problems. Now they're simple, but 40 math problems in 60 seconds. Right.
Yeah. And we're not doing that in like reading class. Like, who can read 10 pages in 10 minutes? No.
Right.
That takes all the fun and joy out of it.
Comprehension, right? And reading.
Correct.
Comprehension. And if that takes you longer, but you comprehend it really well, great. Right. No, oh my gosh, that's like blowing my mind. Yes. We value comprehension in reading, right?
Exactly.
Rather than fully comprehension in math. We value getting the right answer rather than the process to which you got to the right answer.
Oof. You said it. You, Tori, are you preaching on the podcast today?
I don't know. I just blew my own mind. Really, you got me there. But no, I think I've never thought of it that before. I've never thought of it that way before. Where math, it was about getting the right answer, and reading, it was like, how do you understand what you're actually reading? Do you understand the words on the page and what the author is trying to tell you? Ooh, yeah.
Yep.
Do you think that this math anxiety and this lack of support for women in math or science focused careers, STEM, right, has contributed to this larger wealth gap or this larger opportunity gap for women generally, and then specifically for women of color?
I do. I think the short answer is definitely yes. Is it linear to keep going with I love a good math pun, and I mean, it fits. Is there a dotted line or a straight line that we can draw that says math anxiety directly correlated to the wealth gap? I don't know. Things are a lot more complicated, right? And in
You might
our
say it
society.
multiplies.
You might say it multiplies, or if you want to go the next level, it grows exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
um, so there's definitely a connection, I believe, and I believe that what we were talking about earlier in talking about how people feel like, oh, I'm not good at math, so I'm not good. I'm not going to be good at my finances, or I'm not even going to try to get my finances together. Well, of course, that finances, wealth, there are definitely some correlations there. I think there are a lot of other factors, structural racism and things that we are still dealing with from many years ago that have not corrected themselves, or they have not been corrected, that play a role in that. But math anxiety is definitely in there somewhere, for sure.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, again, I'm about to make a pun, but yeah, it compounds, right? Where it's like, it's these narratives that you've been told throughout your life, in addition to the lack of support, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a general lack of support for women, especially women of color in STEM
Yes.
fields. So
Yes.
I think it's not just how we raise our girls, and both from the parent side, but also society. And then it's like, if you're even, if hypothetically you are told you're good at math and are able to foster those skills, or do you have the support to go to college to actually get a degree to
Correct.
further, right?
Correct.
So it's not a just I'm nervous or scared about math. It's all of the things together that are compiling to provide a lack of opportunity.